Hal Greer passed away. Now, I can't sit there and tell you that I saw Hal Greer in his prime. His career ended in 1973, so I can't tell you that I saw him in his prime. I can tell you that he averaged 28 points a game the year they won a championship when he won 68-13. And I also can tell you that Greer was in a situation where, when you get right down to it, he's the guy that made that pass. And Greer inbounds, stolen by... He's the guy that made the pass. That hurt them in that big situation there against that killed them in that spot against Boston in Game 7 in 1965. Greer made that pass, which was stolen there in that. I'm trying to turn off this headset, which is bothering me. It's off now. He was the guy who made the pass in 65 in Game 7, in which Havlicek stole the ball. Hal Greer, drafted 13th pick, 1958 by Syracuse. Remember, the Nationals won a championship in the mid-50s. Eddie can look it up. I don't know what year they won it. 54, maybe? We can look it up. Drafted in 58. Where did he go to college? I'm not even sure he went to college. Let's see. I can tell you. He went to Marshall. Wow. He's from Huntington, West Virginia. Look at that. Went to Douglas High School and went to Marshall and graduated in 1958. And he was a second-round draft pick. He played 15 years. He won the NBA championship. He was a 10-time NBA All-Star. He was an All-Star Game MVP. He was a 7-time All-NBA second team. 7-time All-NBA second team. Averaged 19 a game in his career, 5 rebounds, and 4 assists. I didn't realize that Greer passed away today. Heck of a player. And underrated. He was overshadowed by Wilt, played all those years with Wilt. That's number one. And number two, a lot of great guards in the 60s, with a lot of great guards. Obviously, we start with Robertson and West. A lot of great guards. You forget about how good Greer was. And he won a championship, 81 years of age. Hal Greer today passes away. Robert in Vegas, he's on Mad Dog Unleashed. Bob, good afternoon. How are you today? What do you have for me?
Chris, how you doing?
Fine, Robert. Thank you. What's on your mind now? What do you have?
Chris, I'm worried about my Cavs here. The Pacers they look so much faster. They were just so much faster getting down the court, getting set on defense. I don't know what the Cavs, you come out and you score 14 points in the first quarter. It's just, the game was over after the first quarter. I knew they weren't going to come back and win. It's just, we're talking about the 07 team. I actually think that team is better because there's a lot to be said about continuity. That team had been together for 2 or 3 years. This team has played 30 games together. They just look like, a deer in the headlights out there. Jeff Green was 0 for 7. He looked like, he was scared to death taking some of these shots. He was nervy, shooting. It's just, Kevin Love looked slow, like he was moving in quicksand. I just, if they don't go into Game 2 and treat it like Game 7, this series is over. They're going to be gone, and the NBA is going to be sick. Because like you were saying, they need LeBron in there in May and not out of there in mid-April. So
they lose LeBron, they're in huge trouble. I'm not too sure. They lose LeBron there. It's really a two-way hit. The first hit with LeBron is the idea that nobody will think Cleveland, if they got to, nobody thinks anybody's going to have a chance to win the NBA championship in the finals if LeBron's not in the finals himself. Nobody's going to think Toronto, nobody's going to think any of these other teams can be competitive against either Golden State or Houston without LeBron with the Cavs. That's number one. And number two, you're 100% right, Robert, and good call. I'm not too sure how many people are going to be that wrapped up on Raptors Pacers in the second round. And they need LeBron in a worse way. That's a big hit. Sometimes these NBA series get away from these teams pretty quick. I've watched a lot of NBA playoff series where, a team gets swept. They lose that first game, a big favorite, and they never really regroup and they get swept, and that's the end of it. I've seen it happen a million times. And sometimes, it's surprising, but it occurs, and there is a chance that could be the case with Cleveland. They look like a team that is really going to have trouble finding its footing in this postseason, based on what I saw yesterday. John in Westport, Connecticut. Johnny, good afternoon. Your turn.
Chris,
yes, John.
Thanks for taking the call. Actually, I was up in Middlebury, up at Middlebury College in Middlebury, Vermont, for my daughter's lacrosse game this weekend. And we watched Saturday and Sunday. There were big crowds in the, at the inn there watching the games both nights. So people are into it.
Well, that's a good sign. That's a second call. So you went to Middlebury College. You found some bar in the middle of nowhere in Middlebury on a frozen night, and they were watching the NBA playoffs.
People were into it. They were into it. It was which was great to see. So, I grew up in the city, so it was great to be around people into the games.
So that game, the Miami-Philadelphia game and the Cav game yesterday, they were all watching, correct?
Yes. And I will tell you, I think this kid Simmons, I think he's transcendent as a talent. He plays to do what he can do at 6'10", how fast he plays. This kid, he's the best player since Durant to come into the league, I think, and LeBron. I mean, this kid is going to be a very, very special player.
I think there's some. He's got to shoot the ball better. He can't make free throws either. But he's fun to watch. He's fun to watch. There's no question about it.
He is, and I tell you also with Embiid, the length that Philly has when they've got Embiid, Simmons, Covington, Saric on the floor. I tell you, they could go to the Eastern Conference Finals. They could get there. I don't know if they can go to the. I don't know if they can get to the NBA Finals, but I think they could play in the finals.
Well, they're going to win this. Good point. And they're going to win this series, Johnny. I agree with you on that. Good call. They're going to win this series against Miami. Let's see them on a road before we go crazy. Let's see them win in 5 games. Philadelphia would show me something if they went back home up 3-1 instead of coming back home 2-2. Let's see Philadelphia be able to do that, number one. And then let us see the scenario with Philadelphia against a depleted Celtic team in the second round. But they are dangerous. I agree. Now, they got a bunch of role players with Simmons right now. We haven't seen enough of Fultz yet to get a real read on him. So let's leave him out of it. But they are a bunch of role players. Embiid gives him that second excellent player. Let's see how they utilize him when he comes back. 19 in front of the hour. We continue on Mad Dog Unleashed.